Hey everybody, welcome to our workshop this evening. I'm so excited to get started. If you are watching the recording of this, you can probably fast forward by another 7 more minutes. We're going to get started at 6 p.m. Central Time, 7 on the East Coast, 4 on the West. Thanks for being here. Looking forward to getting started. Please feel free to introduce yourself in the comment section if you're here live. And even if you're watching the recording, I'd love to see you introduce yourself in the comment section. I'm just getting the link posted onto our website. Yeah, we're gonna get started in like 6 minutes. Boom. And we are officially live on the website. Boom, awesome, awesome, awesome. Feel free to introduce yourself if you are here. Thanks for being here early. Boom, there it is. Cool. Nice, we got somebody here. Welcome, welcome. Introduce yourself in the comment section. You're here early. We're gonna get started in 5. So for our workshop today, we've got some fun things on the docket. We're going to cover suggested questions you can ask your student to build a deeper relationship, essentially how to get your mentee to open up to you more, how to help your student with accountability and suggested questions to get them thinking about how to be more accountable, and how to help your student broaden their perspective. So those are fun topics. Those are fun things to cover. I think you're going to find this workshop to be really valuable and just covering some key things. I'll post the questions in terms of what I suggest asking to accomplish these things in the comment section in the chat. But yeah, looking forward to getting started. You know, as a fun joke, one thing that I've been doing today is because it's April Fool's Day, it's April 1st, I've been saying Happy Friday. It's just a joke, just to see what happens. I find it humorous. So yeah, new people here watching right now live, introduce yourself in the chat. I'd love to learn who you are. I know we're here early. We're going to get started in 3 minutes, 3 whole minutos. But yeah, I'd love to learn who you are. Have you done anything fun this week? I'd love to learn if you've done anything fun this week, or if you are planning anything fun over the weekend. So like, for example, or also counts for sharing is if you had a really great April Fool's joke, I'd love to learn about it. Yeah, I'd love to learn if you have any good April Fool's joke. My fiance and I just closed on a house, and she texted me today and said, "Hey, I just got us a couch. It was a great deal. And she shows me a picture with the price on it. And it was like for like $6,000 or something like that. And I'm like, whoa, that's like a purchase we make together. And she got me. She obviously had not bought a couch, but it was a good April Fool's joke. Hey, Andrew, thanks for being here. Oh, you know what? It's funny you say that, Andrew, because a lot of people have tomorrow off because it's Good Friday. So I think that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, that joke, the April Fool's joke wasn't as funny because some people actually do have Friday off. So even if I say Happy Friday, it doesn't mean anything. So that's um got it. So yeah, Megan made a good point, a clarification point, and this is something she and I will need to discuss at another time. Um, I was under the impression our very first meeting was our orientation, and then workshop 1 and workshop 2, and then workshop 3. But I also see the valid points of just calling orientation workshop 1, calling the one we did a few weeks ago workshop 2, and then this one workshop 3. So I'm game for either one, but I see, yeah, it was my fault for not having clear and precise communication there. But hey, everybody, welcome. We're going to get started in 1 minute. And I'm excited to cover some key points in our workshop this evening. So, well, I'm not going to do the overview because I know there's going to be, everybody joins like at the last second. So if you have any other April Fool's jokes, post it in the comment chat sections. Andrew, thanks. I appreciate it. Congratulations. You bought a house too. Home ownership. Yes. I hopefully nothing too crazy, you know, fingers crossed hasn't happened to you, Andrew. But thanks for sharing. That's cool. That's awesome. Congratulations on buying a house. It is a freaking endeavor. It's my first home that I've ever bought, so I've not done any of this, but it is officially 6 o'clock here in Austin, Texas, 7 on the East Coast, 4 on the West Coast, 5 in Mountain Standard Time. So I guess that's Denver-ish area and anywhere else in that area too. Welcome to the workshop. I'm excited to jump in. So here's what we're going to cover today. This workshop is going to be roughly 15-ish minutes long in terms of content, and then maybe about another 5 to 10 of Q&A if you have Qs, and I'll have the As. During this workshop, we're going to cover suggested questions you can ask your student to build a deeper relationship with them. Essentially, how can you get your student to open up more to you? We're going to talk about how you can help your student with accountability and suggested questions to get them thinking about accountability. And we're going to talk about how you can help your student broaden their perspective. So let's jump in. As you all know, we start these workshops off with the 3 keys to being successful in a mentor relationship. That is strategy, story, and state. I said that in reverse order of importance. State is the most important component to being a successful mentor. Essentially, physically, what is your physical state saying about yourself? What are the things going on in your world? At the end of the day, we can be in a crazy negative attitude and crazy negative space. Maybe we were slouching all day. Maybe we've had a rough day. Hopefully you don't have work tomorrow. If you don't have work tomorrow, even better, you can have fun tonight. But either way, what is your state saying about yourself? Because if physically we're coming in with a negative state, we're going to give off a negative output. So what I want you all to do right now is I want you to get yourself into a positive state, because we know that your emotions can drive your emotions. So what I want you to do right now is I want you to stand up and I want you to shake it out. I want you to shimmy it loose. I want you to shake your legs. I want you to shake your hands. I want you to shake your head. I want you to scream at the top of your lungs. On the count of 3, I want you to scream. 1, 2, 3. Yeah! Just let it out, let it loose, let it go. It's so much fun to do that, man. I even though I'm sitting down right now in front of this, you know, video cam, I love doing that. That gets me going. It makes me feel good. Hopefully it makes you feel good too, but it just changes your physical. Like I love to pound my chest like as if I'm King Kong. It just makes you feel good. It makes you feel better. It makes you feel like you're alive and you're ready to go. But when you're coming into a mentor relationship or into a mentor meeting, you should be in a positive state. And if you're not intentional about what your state is, you need to get intentional about your state, because ultimately we know that if you're not intentional about your state, you're going to let your state drive you. And if you're in a bad position, if you're in a bad mood, if you're in a bad physical state, you're going to convey negativity to the person you're speaking with in all scenarios, not just the mentor relationship, but especially your mentor relationship. The second key is your story. So what is the story that you tell yourself? Why will you or will you not be successful in a mentor relationship? And so really this is the mentality you have. If you tell yourself something like, hey, you know what, I'm just not a good mentor, or I don't have any good insight to share with my student, or I don't have any good questions, you're going to manifest that outcome, plain and simple. Whatever you tell yourself, you're going to manifest, no higher. You're not going to wake up one day and just be the most incredible mentor in the world. You're not going to you're not going to go to bed one day thinking to yourself like, shoot, I'd love to be Elon Musk, and then wake up and all of a sudden you're like, I'm Elon Musk. That's not how that works. It doesn't show up randomly. But if we can set an intention about how we would like to be, of what we would like our story to be in terms of success, we are much more likely to achieve that goal, or at least somewhere on the way to that goal. Even if it's not fully to the end outcome that we've set for ourselves, if we set our goals short, or we set our mentality short, we're only going to achieve what we set for ourselves. So if we can have a positive story for why we're going to be successful as a mentor, we're much more likely to be successful and impactful as a mentor. And the last key to being successful as a mentor is your strategy. So what are the strategies that you are willing to deploy to be a great mentor? What are the things that you're willing to do to try new things? This could be maybe introductions, introducing your student to people that you know that you think might be helpful. This could be reviewing their resume, giving them feedback on it. This could be asking them different questions than what you're accustomed to asking them. There's a lot of different strategies to being successful as a mentor. And if you feel like, oh, I'm not getting through to my student, or my strategies aren't working, it means you haven't tried enough strategies. I mean, ultimately, the only reason why we fail in terms of not leveraging in terms of our strategy as a mentor is because we're not being resourceful enough. There's no such thing as a lack of resources. Every time you got one of these workshops, you're getting more and more resources that you can leverage to being a better mentor. There's no lack of strategies you can use. So therefore, if you're feeling like, dang, I'm not getting through to my student, I'm not, I don't know if I'm making as big of an impact as I would like, I want to challenge that notion. I want you to think again about it. And I want you to think, are there things that you may not have considered before, may not have tried, that you could try to be a better mentor? So those are the 3 keys to being successful as a mentor. That is your story, your state, and your strategy. I'll take a moment to pause, ask any questions, see if you have any questions about anything in the chat, post them there. If not, we'll move on to the next section. I don't know about y'all, but I'm a big water drinker. I drink this, entire gallon jug of water every day. I just think it's good to be hydrated. I don't know. I like it. If you're a fan of drinking water, let me know. So to the next stage of this workshop, let's talk about building a deeper relationship with your student. So one of the big things that I love to do to build a deeper relationship with anybody, but especially in a mentor relationship, is to better understand their story. So more often than not, when we say, hey, could you tell me about yourself, or, share with me more about what you do, it's very superficial fluff. It's just about what we do for our work, or what we're studying, or, the very short-term immediate things that we're working towards. And I don't like that, because that's not the whole story of who we are. So the question I like to ask, or really the way I like to go about asking it, is, tell me your story starting with kindergarten. This may seem like a lot of detail, but it gives you a lens into their personal goals and drives and where they've come from. I know it sounds like such a silly question or silly thing to say, but could you tell me your story starting with kindergarten is a great question to ask, because it gets them thinking about beyond the superficial fluff, but also the fact that you care about them as a deep individual person, and not just what they're doing now or what they're trying to accomplish. Because what they're trying to accomplish professionally, very transactional, also likely to change. But who they are as a person up to this point in time, that's them. That's permanent. And that's something that, by asking the question of, tell me your story, can you tell me your story starting with kindergarten, you are much more likely to get a deeper, more productive, more beneficial lens into who they are as an individual. So it's a great question to ask. And then I like to ask, after I've gotten to understand their kindergarten story of, like, at first I, did this, and then I did this, and then my family moved, or I did that, or whatever. After you learn their story starting with kindergarten, ask them this question: what is your dream career, and how do you plan on getting there? The reason why this is a great question to follow the kindergarten question is because it you've already established that rapport. You've already established that trust by allowing them to share with you their story, starting with kindergarten. They feel like you know who they are. And so when you ask them what their dream career is, how do you plan on getting there, they can kind of pull from these past experiences that they've already shared with you on how they're going to go about getting to where they like to be. And that's an extremely beneficial activity for them to do. The other question I like to ask is, where do you see yourself in 5 years? It's a great question to ask because it allows them to start thinking more tangibly about where they would like to go with their career, with their profession, with just their life in general. And by the way, where you like to be in 5 years could be anything. It could be, I like to start a family. It could be, I like to buy a house. It could be, I like to work in this industry, or it could be, I like to graduate. It could be anything. I'd like to pursue a graduate degree or my PhD. It could be anything. But where you like to be in 5 years is a great question to ask, because then it allows them to get off of just not only the dream scenario of where they like to be with their dream career, but also what can they do in the next 5 years to maybe get them on that path and start creating some stops on the way to helping them get to where they like to be. Now, one thing I like to ask also in terms of just getting to know somebody better is, tell me a story about a time when you really wanted something and you ended up realizing that you didn't really want it that much, but actually wanted something else. Regardless of whether or not they got it, what did you learn from it? So essentially, tell me a story about a time that you really, really wanted something. Maybe when you were a kid, you wanted this BMX bike. You just thought it was the coolest bike in the world. And you thought that if you had it, like, you'd be the coolest kid and it would be the best thing ever. And then you ended up realizing, you know what? I don't need that BMX bike in my life. And I don't really want it that much. Maybe you got the BMX bike and you ended up realizing this thing isn't that great, or I don't like it, or, it's dangerous. What was that thing for you? And this is actually a fun exercise you can do with me right now. If you're watching this live, or if you're watching the recording of this, ask yourself, what was something in your life that you really, really wanted? And then at one point in time, as you got older and learned more things, you realized you didn't want that thing that much. Post in the comment section. I'd love to learn about it. Did you end up getting it? Did you not end up getting it? What made you realize that you didn't want it anymore? I'd love to learn about this. Post in the comment section. The point is that these questions can get your student to open up and get out of their facade that everything has to be perfect. The reason why that's cool, the last question I shared, is such a powerful question is because that whole dream career notion in our mind can be potentially, we can become so enamored with this idea of having this dream career, like, oh, I'm going to become an architect, or I'm going to become a doctor, or I'm going to become a lawyer, or whatever. And we become enamored with this dream. We tell people about this dream. Our identity becomes so engrossed in this dream. And then all of a sudden, we learn something and we end up maybe realizing that this isn't the path we want to go on. And then we have this identity crisis where we're like, oh my gosh, I've told everybody that I've ever known that I wanted to become a doctor. And now I realize I don't want to be a doctor. I'm afraid of blood. I just don't think this is the right fit for me. How can I live with myself? And it's a really difficult identity crisis. But by asking them about a time that they really wanted something, and then they ended up realizing at a later date they didn't really want it so much, it makes them human. It makes them realize your interests can change, and that's okay. And your world's not over, and your identity is not changed. And you can tell people that your interests have changed, and that's okay. It doesn't make you any less of a person. But by walking through that exercise as their mentor, that can really unlock a lot of keys for them. Because as students, there's a lot of cool avenues that you can go with your career, and your interests can change. And if you can show them that it's okay that your interests can change, you are embracing them and you're helping them work through their own situation. As a mentor, that's one of the most powerful places you can be as a mentor. So I'd love to see what your comments are. I'm going to check it out. Dr. Jen, thanks for being here. From the Mississippi River. You needed to load onto a ferry. That's awesome. That's cool. So share with me, what is a time? Andrew, awesome. You're working towards having your own personal full workshop. Someday you'll get, probably not tomorrow, on the next day, but you'll get there eventually. I love it. I love it. That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that. If anybody else would like to share, I'd love to hear about it. But I also love to hear about times that maybe you really wanted something and then you ended up realizing at a later date you didn't want it so much. Yeah, I mean, that's I love to learn about it. Post in the comment section. Moving on to the next segment of this workshop, I love to talk about accountability and how you can help your student with accountability. So there are 5 key questions that I really like to ask students to help them become more accountable. And I'll share them with you right now. I'm gonna actually take a little water sip break. So the 5 questions that I really like to ask to help a student become more accountable, especially in this mentor relationship, but also in their life and in their world and in their career, is the first question is, when have you persisted and had it pay off for you? This is a great question to ask because it's a great confidence booster. It shows them and it helps them kind of convey a time that they had worked hard. Because I think so often when we're not accountable, we make excuses. We make excuses for why we weren't accountable. There's a lot of things that were in our way that stopped us from getting to where we wanted to be. So by asking the question, when have you persisted and paid off for you, you get them in the mindset psychologically of, okay, I have overcome difficult things in my life. This is the time that I did, and this is how I did it. The second question I like to ask is, what specific actions do you need to take to meet your goal? The reason why this is so powerful for helping somebody with accountability is because it allows them to specify the steps. The other key reason why people are not accountable or just don't achieve the things that they want to achieve is because they haven't specified exactly how they're going to get there. It's just a dream. They live in dreamland of like, I eventually want to become a doctor someday. I'm not actually going to apply to medical school or take classes like biology to help me get there, but I do want to be a doctor one day. That's a dream. That's a wish. That's not going to help you get there. But if you set a plan for what you need to do to get there, you're much more likely to achieve that goal. The third question I like to ask is, who can help you be accountable? Now, you can as their mentor, but I love to ask this question of who can help you be accountable, because now they can identify other people in their life that can help them be accountable. This could be a sibling. This could be a parent. This could be a friend. This could be an uncle. This could be a professor. It could be anybody. But by asking them who in their life can help them be accountable, that gets them thinking about, okay, well, shoot, I need to leverage my network to help me achieve the goals that I want. And by the way, they don't actually need to hound you for, hey, have you gotten this thing done or did you get this thing done? But if you told them that you want them to help hold you accountable, they're much more likely to ask you about it on a later date, which is going to in turn hold them accountable to their goals. So that's a great question to ask, is who can help you be accountable? The fourth question I like to ask is, what systems can you put in place to help you follow through? So I'm a big fan of if, when, then statements, which just essentially means you set it's a mental way of setting goals, essentially by saying, if this happens, then I'm going to go do this. It's anchoring a task or a concept to a thing. So for example, if I want to exercise on a more routine basis, I can say, when I brush my teeth, I'm going to then work out. You then mentally associate brushing your teeth with working out. You anchor yourself to this idea. So if you get to a point where you think to yourself, well, shoot, like I'm getting tight on time. Do I need to end this task early so then I can go brush my teeth and work out? The answer is going to be yes, because you can't do one without the other. If you mentally tell yourself, I need to anchor this activity to this other activity that you want to start as a positive habit, you're much more likely to achieve it. And so by saying, what systems can you put in place to help you follow through on your goal? You are helping your student identify things that they can set for themselves to help them get to where they like to be. And oftentimes the best ones are ones that are on a regular, routine, daily, or weekly basis. The fifth question I like to ask are, what are the costs/rewards of or of not following through on your commitments? By quantifying it, by specifying it, by laying it out exactly what the biggest costs or rewards of not following through on commitments is so critical, because it allows them to make it tangible that what they're going to lose if they don't do it. So if they really want to become a doctor, what are the costs of not becoming a doctor? Well, I don't get to fulfill my dream of helping save people's lives. I don't get to live the career or do the profession that I like to pursue. I don't get to continue pursuing this identity that I've told for other people. There's a lot of costs and rewards for not following through and rewards for following through on it. But by helping your students specify that, that's huge. So those are the 5 core questions I really like to ask. I really like to help a student ask in terms of helping them clarify just how they would like to be and how they can be more accountable with their life and their career. And the reason why these questions are so powerful is because you don't actually need to tell your student like, hey, I want you to be more accountable. If you're getting this vibe, like, I think they struggle with accountability, you can just ask them these questions. They don't need to know that these questions are going to help them become more accountable. But by asking them the questions, you get them thinking deeper about it, and they're going to become more accountable in turn themselves because you're asking them these great, incredible questions. So Dr. Jen, you had a great comment. You thought you really wanted to be a copywriter until you started writing for other people and you realized you didn't. That's awesome. I appreciate you sharing that. That's a great story and example, and a great thing that you can ask your student and also share with your student, because 1, it shows vulnerability, but 2, it shows that if they change their mind about their career path, that's an okay thing. It's not the end of the world. If y'all have any questions about any of these other things, let me know. We're going to jump into this next segment in just a moment. So the last part about this workshop is on how to help your student broaden their perspective. So there are 6 key questions that I like to ask a student to help them broaden their perspective. So question 1 is, what will this situation look like to you in 10 years? And by the way, I want to preface this. You don't actually need to tell your student like, hey, I want to help you broaden your perspective. You can just say, you know what, I think that they are really micro. I think they're really looking through a magnifying glass. I really want to expand and broaden that perspective. Here are questions that you can ask to help them with that. So what will this situation look like to you in terms of their life and their career? What will this look like to you in 10 years? It's a great question to ask because it gets them out of the lens. It gets them out of the microscope. It gets them thinking, okay, I get that this thing needs to happen, but this is how it's going to help me achieve where I'd like to be in 10 years. So for example, you may end up noticing that your student is really stressed out by an upcoming exam, that this exam is really weighing on them and they don't actually know how they're going to handle it or how they're going to make the most out of it or how they're going to make it work. And as their mentor, by asking them where they'd like to be in 10 years, it's almost like a distracting question, but it gets them realizing like, okay, this exam in the grand scheme of things is not the end of the world. The second question I like to ask is, what are you willing to try that is different? So this is a great question to ask because it helps them realize that if they want to get to where they like to be, and if there are things that are in the short term stressing them out, there needs to be something different that exists in their world for them to actually get a different outcome. You can't keep doing the same thing over and over again and expect a different outcome. That is insanity. So by asking them, what are you willing to try that is different? You get them into the mental framework of, okay, there is something that I need to try that is different, and I am willing to try it. So getting them consciously aware of it is huge. Not telling them what they need to try to do that's different is critical, but actually asking them what they think they need to do. Asking questions is so much more powerful than just giving advice. The third question I like to ask is, who do you respect and how might he or she approach the situation you're facing? This is a great question to ask because it now gives them a paradigm. I think it was like Roger Bannister that was the first person to break the 4-minute mile. And then within that year, 30 other people broke the 4-minute mile. The reason why I cite this is because by having other people who you can treat as a paradigm for success, we can then be more likely to actually achieve that goal and outcome. So by essentially identifying somebody that I respect and how he or she might approach the situation, I'm much more likely to actually achieve the outcome because now I'm not comparing myself to people who are not successful. I'm comparing myself to someone who I highly respect and consider to be very successful. The fourth question I like to ask is, what is your attitude about this situation? Is it helping you or hurting you? It's a great question to ask because oftentimes when we share who we respect and how they might face the situation, that's where you might get into the excuses mode. That's where you might start getting into the, well, they're at a different level, or they've got way more resources than I, or they're just in a different position, or they've got this, or they've got that, and that's why I couldn't possibly do it. And that's why asking the question of what is your attitude about the situation, is it helping you or hurting you, is a great question to ask, is because oftentimes as a student or just as an individual in general, we can recognize when our mentality is not serving us. And this is a great question to ask, because as opposed to saying like, hey, your mentality is not serving you, that might make them feel like it's an attack. But by asking them the question, do you feel like this mentality is helping you or hurting you? They can be their own judge, and they can essentially swallow their own words and realize, you know what, this is not helpful. It's not solution oriented, and I need to get on the right track. The fifth question I like to ask is, what is one of your greatest strengths? How can it serve you in this situation? So typically asking the attitude question, they might feel a little down on themselves. So by asking the strengths question, we're much more likely to get them into this mentality, this attitude of, okay, what are one of your strengths? How can it serve you in this situation? It helps build them up as to what they can achieve and what they can accomplish. And it helps them realize that they can achieve the goals that they've set for themselves. And then the last question I like to ask, and this is the sixth question in this, is what makes you curious about this issue? What genuinely makes you curious? I mean, at the end of the day, curiosity is what fuels all of us. And if we can figure out what makes our students genuinely curious about what they want to do with their life and their career, we can be incredible mentors. Because if they're only doing it for the money, or for parental recognition, or for friend recognition, or for status, or for things that are transactional, superficial fluff, that will become sussed out from this question. But if they're genuinely curious about this scenario, about this career path, it allows them to learn and grow in a new and different way. And that can be a very powerful thing as a mentor. So anyways, those are the key questions that I really encourage you to ask to help a student broaden their perspective and be more accountable. Like I said, you don't need to tell them that you're asking them these questions to help them broaden their perspective or be more accountable. But just by asking them the questions, it's going to help them with those outcomes anyways. So I'd love to open up the floor for Q&A. Do y'all have any questions or anything for me? By the way, you should be meeting with your student. Hopefully you've been able to have at least 2, potentially 3 conversations already. If you got any questions about any of the scenarios that you are having with your student, please feel free to mention them in the comment section, or just email support@ambitioninmotion.com. I'm going to look up any notes on my end, but if you got any questions, please post them in the comment section. Awesome. Well, it's looking like we don't have any questions. I hope everybody has a wonderful rest of their April Fool's Day, of their April 1st. Thank you all for being here. I'm so grateful. I just want to finish up with just my own gratitude. I'm so grateful for you all for being mentors, for taking the time to be a mentor. I mean, as I shared this in our original group meeting, original orientation, that by being a mentor for students, you are having a huge impact on their lives. I mean, students who have a mentor are nearly 3 times more likely to thrive than students who don't in their careers and in their life. So by being there for your student, even if you feel like, I don't know if I'm making an impact, I don't know if it's changing their life, by being there, by asking them questions, by giving them advice, and by just listening to them, you are making an impact. I'm telling you, and I'm grateful for you, and I appreciate you. So thank you all for being here. Thanks for being an incredible mentor, and have a wonderful rest of your evening. Other final point I wanted to leave you with is, if you are a part of a company and you're thinking to yourself, shoot, my company would love to have a mentor program, or if there's anything that you're doing that you think might be relevant to mentorship and you'd like to apply it to an organization you're in or a company you're in, please feel free to reach out to us. We'd love to have a conversation with you about it. We love setting up mentor programs in a corporate and an executive setting, and we love to work with more people. So anyways, thank you all for being here. Megan, thanks for posting your email. That's awesome. Have a wonderful rest of your evening, everybody. Have a good night.